Hello, welcome to the Roundhouse podcast with Paul Solentrop of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. Our guest today is Wichita State volleyball coach Chris Lamb. He's going to wrap up spring drills. Shockers played a variety of teams throughout the spring, most recently Kansas and Missouri up in Lawrence. They also faced Creighton, Arkansas, Omaha, Oklahoma, and Kansas State, among others, this spring. Last season, the Shockers went 26-8, 15-4 in the American Athletic Conference. They won the National Volleyball Invitational Championship last fall, defeating Arkansas State, Tulsa, Drake, Montana State, and UTEP. Back for the Shockers, we'll give you a little refresher. Two second-team all-conference picks from last fall, setter Izzy Strand and middle Morgan Stout, in addition to most of the liberos and DSs in that position. So Chris, Shockers won the NIVC, played really well in those matches. How does that experience help the returners get going this spring?
Well, wow. So I'll just kind of answer this differently. I've been asked before about, what would you rather do? Have a run through this NIT type tournament, which we call the NIVC, or make the NCAA tournament and likely be out in one or two rounds. In women's volleyball, it's regional, so we're not seeded throughout the country yet. I say yet because hopefully one day. So we always end up with Nebraska or Texas, and a couple times we've gotten Kansas. So it's great to make the tournament, and it's great to participate in the tournament. But this NIVC thing, while it's one notch below the NCAA tournament, I think it's a good question to ask. What do you think about if you're able to make a run through that tournament, through a bracket? Well, so this year we went all the way through the bracket. We went to the final and we won the championship. And I got to admit, it was real exciting to just have, a team with a day or two to prepare, on to the next, day or two to prepare, on to the next. There was some excitement to that for me, having played myself. Brackets, double elimination brackets were a big part of what we used to do. So just moving through a bracket had a nice little feel to it, and it was fun for me to kind of feel that again. So that part was great. The part about developing for the future, and I think your question was like, how did that go? I feel like we were really fresh at the end of the year. We were having to deal with Briley Kelly's ab and hip flexor. And so Briley was basically a day-to-day throughout the whole year, and near the end of the season, with about a month to go, we finally started training as if she wouldn't be available because she really didn't get to play much. And that lineup, that rotation, as you say in volleyball, was really good. I mean, we were efficient, we were good, and with about a month to go, all the way to the finish line, I felt we were young and fresh, and we were playing really good volleyball down the stretch. And then getting into that tournament, we only lost one set in that deal, and the competition was pretty good. And I feel like it was just sometimes novel concepts are good, just throwing something new, and it kind of gets people rejuvenated. Maybe there's just something to be said for that. But yeah, we were able to host games. The Shocker fans came out. It was fun. A lot of TV publicity. And word got out, and we knew it. Players knew it. And I think it ended up being a home run for us. I'm glad we were able to participate, and of course I'm glad we got to make a long run, and obviously it's never a bad thing to win a championship.
Yeah, I think as we've seen in basketball at Wichita State, you get over maybe the initial disappointment of not going to the NCAA, start winning matches, fans get on board, and it can be a really good experience. So you gathered the Shockers for the first meeting of the spring. What was the message? What did you talk about when you first got together?
Well, so the building of a new lineup. It wasn't like the canvas was completely blank, but, different people in different spots. So, usual suspects, but are they playing a different role? Who's going to join the team? Now we've got this transfer portal. Is anybody going to be coming in? Freshmen coming in next year. Do we train as if we expect some newcomer in August to take over at a particular position? Do we think they're going to be more of a support backup role, and our starting lineup is right here in front of us? I mean, there's questions to ask, and you go through the process of trying to train certain lineups. So we are sort of acting as if we know. Well, when I say that, throughout this spring, we were sort of acting as if we suspected a newcomer to have a role on our team, and let's train as if she would be in that role, and therefore using our other component pieces, if you will, to build something that's efficient and can score enough points. Because we graduated Natalie Foster at her position. She was the leading point scorer in terms of volume, which is the M2 spot. Sophia Rowling was the top right side player. So we have some points to search for and find as we put next year's system together.
What's the biggest thing you learned throughout the spring?
Well, everybody we play marvels at our, passing and defense. There's not a coach out there that, if you interview him before a game, what do you need to do tonight? The word passing, hope we pass well. Everybody we played, I think, feels we outpassed them. That's, Gabby Moss, Katie Galligan, Reagan Anderson, Tiger, Annalie Hastelli, Emerson Wilford. I mean, I feel like that was a nice strength to our team. Also, I feel like we play a pretty balanced offense. We will need to continue to do that. We did last year. I feel like that's continued through the spring. But I still think a major question to ask is where's 17, 18 points a game going to come from? Because that's what it's going to take to be amongst the leaders in this conference. And, we're still going to have to make... We'll see. We'll see how we're going to do it. But, it's not like it's a no-brainer that we've got it. We've got some work to do.
Yeah, you mentioned the people that have departed: Natalie Foster and Sophia Rowling, Briley Kelly, Barbara Kohler. Tell us a little bit about the search for point scorers this spring. Who looked good? Who did you turn to?
So I think a big piece to this is Maddie Wilson. So Madison is here basically to become Morgan Stout's replacement as the M1. That's why we brought her here, with having that kind of aptitude and ability. And you could argue that she could go get it right now. However, Maddie is unique. She can play both middle positions well. She could play on the right side. We think she could play on the left side. So when I mentioned earlier that, with Sarah Barham coming in as a transfer from Wofford, we brought her in expecting that she would be able to handle the M2 role. Not in the same way Natalie Foster did. More like in the past, like with Ashley Andrade. Maybe I won't put the pressure on her to be, Abby Lehman's equal, but same style of offense, I think, will work for Sarah. So she's here to do that job. Well, okay, now you got Madison, who has a great set of skills. So we're calling her Maddie. Excuse me, Maddie everything. We went up our first spring outing was up at K-State, and I think they outscored us 3-1 in terms of point scoring. They made their mistakes, and we survived some rallies, but in just terms of straight up kills, it was pretty obvious that where you're going to score points. And so after K-State, I let that influence how I want to train after, because we played K-State, then we had spring break, and I came back and said, we're gonna act as if Maddie's gonna become an outside hitter, a right set player for a little while here, and train the heck out of it. Well, all that did was get better and better each week as she got more and more comfortable. So a big part of where the spring ended up going had a lot to do with that, developing in that way. So, we played most of spring without Izzy, our setter, and, Morgan Stout is still going to we're still going to be very, very careful with her foot. So, we're sort of piecing that together little by little, trying to bring her back. But sorry for the long-winded answer, but the spring really became about the direction that point scoring took us. So what can we score? How can we do it? What are the strengths of our our roster, and where can points come from? And you're thinking, well, Maddie can do this, so it's time to just go all in and let her develop, and right up to the end, she just kept improving there. So I hope that's a good answer for you.
That's a fine answer. I will remind people Maddie Wilson is a redshirt sophomore. She's from Colorado Springs, Colorado. You mentioned Sarah Barham, who will join the team in August. She's a transfer from Wofford. Tell the fans a little bit more about her.
Yeah, so this transfer portal thing is the new normal. You're even having, I see now, there's lots of media around the best transfer class. I saw Indiana and men's basketball apparently is the best transfer portal class. Something new for us to sink our teeth into. So we had an opportunity this winter into the, in December, January, between semesters. And, looking at our roster, I was like, well, if there's an elite quick hitter out there, that's something we should be looking for. If there's a point scoring outside hitter, that's something we should be looking for. We think we have points on the left coming from a couple freshmen. Nadia and Gracie will certainly be in that role, and so we decided we'll look for that, but we also know that's walking in the door. How soon they develop, we won't know. And then again, Maddie going to that role. So with Sarah, it's like, she just, I'll tell you what, if anybody wants to go back and watch her NCAA match against Kentucky, Kentucky realized they needed to get in front of this girl. It was a priority not to let her have her way, and you could tell watching the video that she was a problem. So just a hungry approach taker. She wants the ball. She gets up. She gets it on her hand well, either direction. She can, kind of trick or shot her way out of trouble. And when you couple her with Morgan Stout, this could be the best pair of middle blockers we've ever had during any one season. They are both talented enough laterally to get on the scoreboard or get the stats, the touches, and they're just both hungry individuals watching them block. So, we're talking about Sarah here. So I just feel like there was an opportunity in our roster, and we set out looking for that, and right away she became kind of a priority in recruiting, and she came out and visited, and thought it would be a nice adventure to come to the Midwest for a year, and maybe go back home, but give it a shot. So very pleasant. Oh, she also has a nice story. Not a lot happened for her in recruiting. She pretty much stayed close to home, going to Wofford, and just I can only imagine that with every year that went by, she just kept getting better and better and better, and really turned herself into a prolific scorer for the program.
Emerson Wilford had a good season last season, really played well in the NIVC. Seems like the kind of player who will step into a more prominent role on the front line. Tell us about Emerson's spring.
Well, for Shocker fans, go back to Emily Adney. I told on the bus leaving Lawrence a couple weeks ago, I kind of did a little recap of the day and the spring on the microphone on the bus, and I said, Emerson, you're going to be one of the busiest players in the conference. There's a handful. There's a handful of girls that will occupy this role of a 6 rotation outside hitter in the conference. And you sort of look at lump all these responsibilities in that role into thirds. And how many of those can Emerson be in the top third? So how will she stack up against those 6-row kids in the league as a server, as a passer, as a defender, as a blocker, as a scorer? That's so I issued the challenge because I can remember the day 2011. That season's over, on to 12, the Sweet 16 team. I announced that Emily Adney, you're going to be one of the busiest players in the league, and they're going to serve you every ball. You're going to be a priority of everybody's scouting report, preparing for us defensively, and you better be ready. And that season was a grind for Emily, and I'll just throw this in there. I think this just speaks to the volume. I can remember once I knew Creighton was going to win the conference, we actually changed Emily's role for the last 2 weeks of the season just to give her a break going into the conference tournament. And then we upset Northern Iowa in the semis, lost to Creighton, made the NCAA tournament, go down, beat Arkansas, beat KU, and on to the Sweet 16. So I just felt, for me personally, it was a coaching decision I'll keep with me forever. But it also speaks to, what was on Emily Adney's shoulders. And that is what I expect for Emerson this year. You may never look down and see her leading our team in any particular stat, but please know that she will be doing as much as anybody, not just on our team, but maybe in the conference. She'll be a top 1, 2, 3 busy player. So really excited that she finished last year's campaign playing really well, and then throughout this spring she's keeping it going. So excited for Emerson because I also can remember when she caught wind of the NCAA giving extra year of eligibility to all these players in front of her. I can remember her being pretty frustrated that she was going to have to wait her turn. So no more of that now. She probably got pretty much everything she wanted last year, certainly down the stretch, and now for the next 2 years, there's in a lot of ways you could say it's Emerson's team, and let's see what you can do.
Emerson was one of 3 Shockers who went to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs earlier this spring, spent 2.5 days out there training, scrimmaging, also Brooklyn Leggett and Morgan Stout. What do players get out of that kind of experience?
So, neat thing that USA Volleyball does. They try to put their pipeline together. They try to have names of all the up-and-coming American volleyball players that, obviously one day wear red, white, and blue in the Olympics, but that, there's also world championships that go on each year, and, they've got a pipeline for that. So they're just trying to, get their eyes on top talent and see where everybody's at. It takes a lot to bring those kids to the top. So in our country, it's college volleyball, preparing these kids for the next step. Now we've got a couple pro leagues that have just started. That's also part of the next step. Just finding girls young women, that, look the part, and they've offered up to the Division I coaches, let us see what you got. Izzy wasn't able to go this year because of her wrist, but I think Izzy will enjoy a nice, fun career after Wichita State volleyball, and this is her senior year. So this is all part of that. So the college coaches take a look at their roster. They're going to identify a few players, and we're going to send them out there. And it's a fun experience with other coaches and other athletes. And I think the Shockers represented well. Sounds like they all did pretty great. Morgan Stout kept filtering up, ended up really on the top court for a bit. I think she finished on the second court. Brooklyn Leggett started out near the bottom and climbed her way up for a bit. And Emerson, pretty much from what I was told, right where they placed her, they kept her there as a busy 6-row kid, as we've talked about earlier. And I think they got a lot out of it, Paul.
So you had two newcomers in practices with you this spring, setter Sarah Barham, a freshman from St. Charles, Illinois, and outside hitter Alyssa Gonzalez, redshirt freshman, transfer from TCU. Tell us a little bit about them. How did they perform in the spring?
Well, depending on your definition of most valuable player, Sarah became that immediately because with Izzy being out for her wrist, sure a good thing we got young Sarah here at semester because we just don't have another setter in the program until August. So, just the fact that Sarah was here allowed us to train on a normal schedule, not totally normal, with only one setter, but at least we were able to work on offense and develop offense and go to tournaments against these other teams and play. I mean, it would be a completely different deal if you didn't have a pitcher, right? If you didn't have a setter, if you didn't have a quarterback. So, that was a nice gift to have walk in the door. And then just, I've made so many comparisons with Sarah to Emily Hebert. They kind of got their break with a wrist injury of another player ahead of them. Jordan Loney had that wrist issue she came here with. And never was able to get it going. So Emily Hebert actually was playing a year ahead of schedule. Like Emily Hebert, Sarah doesn't say much, just works hard and is very resilient on to the next play. I know Sarah knows she goofs up once in a while, but the best part is how quickly she recovers from youthful mistakes that will happen for anybody. I just love how on to the next play she is, and also how quickly she advanced. So I think she's got great talent at the position. She had a great spring, and I think that Shocker fans will be very excited to see her running around out there. She can do it. Alyssa, her assistant coach at TCU is somebody that I've known for a long time, just a young up-and-comer. I see her out on the road recruiting. She's a friend of a couple friends, and I've just gotten to know her. And I think when TCU realized that they were going to be going in a different direction, her and Alyssa sat down and we're sort of looking at schools and levels, and she's like, we got to call Lambeau. And Coach called me and said, hey, I want you to look at some videotape. And right off the bat, I'm like, yeah, I mean, what's that? What's Alyssa's story? So, moved from California, got to Aledo, Texas, kind of just got herself onto a club team that already had a starting lineup, really, and so she wasn't really highly exposed, but the coaches at TCU knew of her, and they got her in the program, and, probably wasn't really going to be a point scorer for TCU, and she just wanted to play. So good young prospect for Wichita State. If you were to compare her to the outside hitters we're recruiting in 2024, 2025, I mean, she really sort of fits the talent set. I mean, her length and her jumping ability and her arm talent. I mean, she's an outside hitter for the American. And then, a skill set. More for her, it's more about blocking and attacking than passing and digging at this point. So as her point scoring goes, so will go her career. So does she have enough to get in that top third of the conference point scoring? That'll be 36% kills, 37% kills on up. There's only going to be a handful of girls from year to year that are really up there. She's a good block avoider. And I just feel like as she does in the weight room and as she improves as a approach taker and attack selector where she goes for points, so will go her career. Anything we get from her passing and defense early in her career will just be a bonus. I expect that to be, a little bit down the road for her. But, my hope for her is that she's contributing early as a point scorer.
We've already mentioned a lot of the Shockers, but I'll go ahead and ask, what was the most pleasant surprise of the spring? Anybody jump out at you?
Well, I'm going to do this. First of all, just how, I'll say this again. For Sarah Musial to just be thrown into the fire with, hey, you're all we got, and just her maturity in these matches. You got top 20 teams on the other side of the net in half of our matches, and or more than half of our matches, and I just love how she just didn't buckle. So it was a very pleasant surprise to just see how mature Sarah handled this ride we put her on for 2 months. That was great. Yes.
Who would have been your emergency setter, or what would you have done had you not had Sarah?
We would have talked to our opponents and said, hey, can we play scramble? There's a way to play volleyball all out of system. I don't know if the coaches would have agreed to it, but you could have said, hey, when we're playing, let's just do all this back row. So it's not real volleyball. It's a drill. But I would have asked coaches if they'd wanted to try to do that. But we maybe could have talked to Morgan Weber. She still could play. Morgan Weber could have come back and probably had fun running around doing that. Anna Lee probably would have been in the mix for that, but thankfully we don't have to have that conversation. Other surprises, Maddie Wilson, just improving wherever we put her. All things Little, all things Libero, all things DS. Our collection, Reagan, Tiger, Anna Lee, I call her Tiger, Katie, and Gabby, I just think as a group, I'll say it right now. I expect them to be one or two as a group in the conference. We'll see when we get there, but these guys have been fantastic. I don't know if I'm going to say that was a surprise because I kind of feel that way about them, but I feel pretty good about that. At the end of the spring, Brooklyn Leggett's kill percentage stayed high, but dropped her air percentage in half. So she's just playing cleaner. The freshman middles, Haley Wolf and Allie Polson. Once we moved Maddie to the pin and Morgan was out with her foot, it was on them. And I think they both would tell you they felt pretty good about their progress in the spring. I hate that I feel like I'm missing something because, I expected Emerson to carry this load, and she did. Oh, here's another one. If I don't say this, and no one would know. I'm so proud of how Izzy Strand handled being out. And then she got less than good news coming back. They decided to keep her in that cast a little bit longer, and I can speak to that. I was casted for 8 weeks and then came back to find out they wanted 2 more. We wanted 11 instead, 3 more, and that didn't make me happy. And I love how Izzy was just mature and how much she helped Sarah, and then blew me away when she actually came back, how quickly she was able to almost look like she was never even out. I think that surprised everybody, but just real nice to see how Izzy handled a tough situation, adversity, as we say, and maybe learn some things along the way, because she was an A-plus teammate. She did everything the doctors and trainers asked her to do. When she came back ready to roll. That was terrific. So I hope I'm not leaving anything out, but there was a lot to like, Paul, from this spring.
Shockers will go to Brazil in May for 10 days, 3 matches, from what I understand. First, you have your passport. I asked Katie Galligan and Emerson Wilford just to double check that, so I got to ask you.
I got my passport. I think we're ready to go. Excited to get them in here in a couple weeks. We get NCAA gives us 10 days to practice, so not everybody will be here for all 10 days, as there several are graduating high school and you can't be here before you graduate. There's just some rules about newcomers, but I'll be happy to get that rolling. Fingers crossed on what Morgan will be able to do. We're certainly not going to risk anything with Morgan Stout. She needs to be ready to go in August. So we'll sort of keep an eye on what's going on with Morgan's foot, but a lot of it has to do with how she feels. I saw her last night at our banquet, and she hasn't had pain in a while, so I suspect there'll be some return to play protocols in front of us here as we get closer to practice, and we'll see how that goes. But I want this for Morgan, and I want her to be able to go over there and experience this on the court.
Do you have a feel for the level of competition you will face?
So when we chose Brazil over Europe, part of that decision was per the company that takes us over there. They've been able to secure desired competition better than Europe. In Europe, you're sort of getting what you get. Sounds like they're able to talk with the Brazilian teams, find out where you're at, and line them up. So, they know we're coming off of a really good season, a top 50-ish team. So they're able to say, okay, we want these teams for you. So I have a feeling that when we're looking across the net, it'll be everything we are and more, which is what our spring was, with K-State and KU and Missouri and Creighton. We had some All-Americans on the other side of the net, and I hope to see same physicality and ball speed when we go down to Brazil.
So we've mentioned the transfer portal several times. It's becoming more and more important. Now you have several years of experiencing it. What have you learned? How does WSU best fit into that transfer portal world?
So I think I want to say it this way. The same players that will reach out and connect with us in the portal didn't really give us the time of day in high school. There is sort of a status that these recruits have, their status that their club coaches have for them, and you just feel like based on who they are and what club they're with, they're out of reach, even though you look at them and you're like, well, that girl wouldn't walk in here and be our best player. But they don't know that. They sort of have things set up in their brain where they belong. Then transfer portal comes along, and we reach out to some of these girls, and now they want to talk. And I'm not blaming anybody for this, but I will just tell you from my chair that there's been athletes that we've been able to connect with that were just not someone I think we would have gotten much from the first go around. So, talking with other coaches, some of them will say, yeah, I'll probably have 3 athletes from the portal for every 1 high school athlete. I mean, it sounds crazy, but I could see it. So I feel like, I don't know that that's the ratio that I would be on, but, the girls that, the young women, I keep saying girls, sorry, these ladies that we're bringing in are also coming in pretty ready to play. So sometimes they're older, like Sarah's 5th-year senior. Barbara last year was a junior college player of the year. So, there's that too. SMU, just to put some perspective in it, all they've been doing for the last 3 years is lining up juniors and seniors, starters, all conference players. So you're just like, you got these dream teams over there, and they know it. So they're just going to keep doing it because they're just a desired destination. People want to go there. People want to graduate from there. And you can see how they'll just continue to see what the portal has to offer. So, I just feel like that's one example. I could cite others and things that I've learned from coaches. But yeah, we didn't participate in it the first 2 years because my team was so young when it started and we were sort of waiting for graduation. But now that we're in there, it's a part of it. We're waiting for May 1st now. We've been sitting on an opportunity this entire time. We've been sitting waiting. So we didn't pull the trigger on some things we had going with unsigned seniors in high school or kids we thought we could have brought in December because we didn't necessarily get what we would have wanted. We weren't going to reach, and we're going to be looking at the transfer portal May 1st when it opens up and seeing what might be there for us. But you don't exactly know what's going to be there. So, and the recruiting in the portal happens really, really fast. It's not like you're going to get to know people very, very well. So that's the other side of it. But yeah, we're gonna continue to participate that way.
I've heard other coaches around the department say that they feel where the transfer portal is helpful at Wichita State is that, kind of like you described, a athlete goes to a school, kind of has the shiny things in mind, the conference, those kind of things, and then maybe after a year or two they realize other things are more important, and coaches feel like those are things Wichita State does well as far as student services, academic support, all those kind of things, coaching. And then you get kids who have kind of changed their priorities. Does that resonate with you? Do you feel like that's where Wichita State can make some progress?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything most people don't know or wouldn't understand, but, around the perimeter of the country, Wichita, it's not like everybody's got that on their mind. But as they go through college athletics, they learn a little bit more about themselves and what may be important to them now as a junior in college rather than a junior in high school. Maybe it's a more pragmatic or practical way of evaluating. And now all of a sudden, hey, what about those guys? So, if that's what the other coaches are saying, I'm on board with that.
What's the car or handyman project that is occupying the famous Chris Lamb garage this summer?
Right now it's our basement. I've torn out my large oak built-in. Amazing you're taking oak to the dump. My dad, if he was alive today, would probably beat me with a stick if he knew I was pulling oak out. But, it just wasn't our thing. Ripped it all out and made a nice build-in with a fireplace, one of these low horizontal kind of fake fireplaces you see now. Gonna be putting a TV above it and some cabinets. So I already did the floors. Now I'm just trying to finish up that back wall and paint and hopefully have it all done before Sydney's graduation party coming up here in a couple of weeks. So I'm at the home stretch. Thanks for asking.
Shocker Volleyball, they've wrapped up their spring drills. They will head to Brazil in May. Chris Lamb, thank you for your time.
All right, I always like coming down here, Paul. Thank you.
Great insight as always. Thanks for listening to the Roundhouse podcast, courtesy of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. We encourage you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can always find more Roundhouse content at GoShockers.com.
Down to a 3-2 pitch with 2 men on, 2 outs in the ninth. The stretch by Tyler Green. Here it comes. Struck him out! A no-hitter for Tyler Green! A strike 3 call on the outside corner, and Tyler Green has pitched the 4th no-hitter in Wichita State history. The second in as many years as he joins fellow classmate Charlie Gendrome as the author of a Wichita State no-hitter and in the process struck out a career-high 13, including all 3 outs in the 9th inning. Tyler Green completes a no-hitter, and Wichita State defeats New Mexico 12-0.